Hi, I'm Janine. This is KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and this is Get the Funk Out. Standing by is author Stephen Rowley, best-selling author of Lily and The Octopus and The Editor. He's returning this May, which we are in May 2021, with The Gunkle, a warm and deeply funny summer read. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How did you, I know a little bit about the backstory, but how did you come up with the idea? It's a mix of real life, right?
Yeah, so I guess we should start at the very beginning, which is if there's anyone listening who is not familiar with the word Guncle, it is sort of becomes popular slang in the past 5 or 10 years for a gay uncle, and often there's a sort of connotation of a larger than life persona, and I know it's changing now for the better, but often it was because a gay man would be less likely maybe to have children of his own. And so he was able to dote on nieces and nephews a little more lavishly, or, come visit from the big city. And so there was an air of mystery about them. So anyway, I had long been fascinated with Auntie Mame and Mary Poppins and Maria from The Sound of Music and all these sort of magical caregiver figures. And you're right in saying it did sort of stem from my own life. I am the Guncle to 5. And a couple years back, my 2 nephews, who were ages 3 and 5 at the time, came to visit with my brother for the week. And after about 12 hours here, my brother was called back to the East Coast for work, where he's a trial attorney, called into court, and left me with his 3 and 5-year-old nephew for the week. And so I was suddenly tasked with, sort of tap dancing and entertaining these 2 disappointed kids. And
Wow.
So that was sort of the jumping off point for the book, in which Patrick O'Hara, a retired television star in Palm Springs, is tasked with taking in his niece and nephew for the summer after a family tragedy, and it sort of brings about a season of healing for all 3 of them.
Were you nervous in that experience at first? Were you thinking, oh no, how am I going to handle this? Or were you fine?
Well, listen, it was far from the tragedy that kicks off the events in the book. So my nervousness was, could take a back seat to whatever. You find your footing. I don't have children of my own. I was thrown into the deep end. Yeah, but I was able to find my footing pretty quickly.
Isn't that perfect? It's like borrowing somebody's puppy. It's like
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you can give them back at the end of the week. Yeah, for sure. And I have a swimming pool, so that was already a step in the right direction for them. Yeah.
So give us a glimpse, without giving too much away, about the book.
Yeah. So, as I said, in being inspired by Auntie Mame, I was sort of envisioning that I would be writing a light comedic novel. And it is indeed funny. I hope very funny. But early in the writing process, I lost one of my best friends from college to breast cancer, leaving behind a 6-year-old son. And so suddenly, in Auntie Mame, she sent her ward off to boarding school and sort of sidestepped the grief. And I very much did not want to do that. It made me think very seriously about grief in children and what a 6-year-old might remember of his mother, and what was the responsibility of her friend group, us and her family, and into sort of reminding this kid how much he was loved. And so my light comedic novel, while still comedic, was now a little less light, but I think that's to the benefit of the book.
Yeah. What are some positive aspects of being a Guncle?
Well, you said that definitely the borrowing the puppy bit is at the top of it. For me though, as an artist and as a writer, there's no denying that raising children is one of life's great emotional experiences, and so I'm very conscious of not having that in my arsenal. But being an uncle to 5. And the book too is also a sibling love story, and so I feel very connected to my brothers and sisters through these kids. So it's a way for us, deepens our relationship as siblings, but it's also a way for me to imagine what I have to offer children, and step up to the plate a little bit and be a part of their lives.
You mentioned in the book the movie Tootsie, which I loved. Was that a favorite of yours that you just wanted to put that in there?
Yeah, it's a long-standing favorite of mine, and also I love the movies of Mike Nichols or James L. Brooks. I think of it in terms of endearment, which to me is one of the funniest movies of all time. Yes, it's incredibly sad, and yes, there's tragedy at the heart of it, but it's deeply, deeply funny. And so movies like this were also a huge part of my education about what humor means
Yeah.
in grieving and in dealing with heartache, and what how much of a coping mechanism it is, and how much, comedy and tragedy are very much, two
Yeah.
sides of a coin.
I have this mantra, sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened. So
Mm.
of course, and that doesn't always, hold true, but like when we experience loss, we go through something, we can really learn a lot about ourselves. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And in this book specifically, Patrick's a character who has sort of shut himself off from the world. He's been long grieving the death of his partner for years
Mhm.
prior, when this new fresh tragedy happens, and he takes in his niece and nephew, which again seems like one more thing. It seems like the thing that's going to break him. He can't handle
Right.
one more thing, and yet it's the thing that leads him back to the living. It leads him back to
Yes.
life, because he has to dig deep within himself to help these two children. And he realizes he doesn't want them to on the path that he took, and that he needs to point them back in the direction of life,
Yeah.
and it ends up saving him. Yeah.
How does it feel to have this book coming out during the pandemic?
Well, originally it was slated to come out last summer, and the thinking was, and this was decided before the pandemic. The thinking was, oh, with the Olympics, and there'll be two big political conventions and lots of news, and then it might get lost, and so
That's
it was pushed back to
nothing.
this year. I know, and little did we know. Little did we know.
Yeah.
I will say, the book has this beautiful yellow cover. It just looks like sunshine. We're slowly making our way back. Yay, you've got your copy.
Love.
Slowly making our way back into the world. I would love it if people threw it in their beach bag, Memorial Day weekend, wherever they're going to be, outside, and read this. But ironically, and I have no control over this because it takes a long time to write a book and a long time to get one published, is that it is about a character who is self-isolated and is finding his way back into
Right.
the world. And so, in some ways, it's sort of a lovely bookend to the past 15 months.
Definitely. And a lesson for all of us, no matter what your story is. You've
Oh,
got
for sure.
I put all your info on my show blog, getthefunkoutshow.kuci.org. And you have a great endorsement, a laugh out loud heartwarmer. Oh, the Oprah Magazine.
Can't get better than that.
No. Amazing. Anything else you'd like people to know about the book?
No, I just hope that people will read this. I'm very touched by, I'll never say no to a good review, but I'm touched by the early readers that have gotten a chance to look at the book. I'm always love it when people reach out to me on Instagram or on Twitter. I just, it's such a solitary occupation, writing, and when your work makes it out in the world and you start getting feedback like that, it's just such a joy.
I have a question for people that are listening to this or watching that are writers. Where did you write this book, or do you have a typical place you like to write?
Lucky for me, I write at home, only because I've been very sensitive to environment. So writing is I call it a very input-output business. Like I like to be observing the world. I like to be eavesdropping on conversations. I like those, those are where I'm a sponge. Yes. That's where I get the rich details for writing. Right. And so when it comes to actually putting words on the page, I don't like to be out in a coffee shop. I don't like to be out in public doing it because I get too distracted. So I do the actual work of writing for the most part at home. So that worked out well for me this past year.
I used to write in the library. That's why I asked. And it was like a study of character acting. It was so interesting. The people that come in.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Libraries are such essential parts of the community, and you get such a cross section of life there, and they just provide so many essential services. So
yes,
I can't wait for all libraries to be com open again.
I know, I miss it. So where can we find out more about you? Where's your website?
Yeah, StephenRowley.com. I'm doing a number of virtual events for the next couple months. I miss being in bookstores and traveling, but of course there's a flip side too. There's a benefit to doing virtual events. You can be anywhere and tune in.
Right.
And so that's great. And I'm on Instagram, at Twitter, at Mr. Mr. Stephen Rowley.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.